They want to go quick with Hogan to the rack and one. Flush, chucks it up, it's caught! Dagger!
Oh, she's gonna hit the gas. One-on-one, boom!
Welcome back for Season 2, Episode 3 of White Noise Sports with Tanner White. Freshly back from LA this past weekend. Oh, it was amazing. More on that later. I'm already back on the content grind, though. Good time to plug the socials right now at the beginning because I'll be putting a ton of stuff out on them around that trip. It was insane. Start on Instagram for all the best stuff, which is, as always, at The Voice of Tanner. Then I've been getting a fair amount of traction on LinkedIn, too. Of course, over there, it's real name, no gimmicks, Tanner White. Last week, I had to push out the episode a tad early before I left, but we covered trusts and busts from men's March Madness up through the round of 32. We also pondered Russell Wilson to the Giants, what it means for Aaron Rodgers and all the other teams that still need to sign or draft a quarterback, and finally tore apart why Stephon Diggs would choose to go to New England. Let's start this week with the beginning of baseball season. We're about to leave the winter sports behind completely. Even in the state of Michigan, we're almost seeing signs of spring, you know? Everyone has been playing for a week plus in the MLB, so now is as good a time as any. Some of the more interesting notes from the really early part of the season here. There has already been a cycle. Carson Kelly, a mostly backup catcher for the Cubs. This is just hilarious. He hit everything on the 31st. This man is something like a 10-year vet who has never really been known as an above-average hitter. But you know how weird stats just tend to pop up in blowouts? The Cubs won this game 18-3, and they're currently among the highest scoring teams in the league. Did not think we would be saying that before this season kicked off. Anyway, Carson Kelly gets 8 at-bats in the game, which is already next to impossible. Then he goes 4 for 6 with, of course, the single, double, triple, and the home run. He drives in 5 runs, scores 3 himself, and he walks twice. Out of the 9 spot in the order, as a journeyman catcher, nothing about that makes sense. There's been roughly 348 or so MLB players, depending on where you look, that have hit for a cycle, and love it or hate it, Carson Kelly is the newest one. There's some teams on some tragic and torrid starts that will not surprise you at all, but do deserve some mention. The LA Dodgers. And I really felt and saw this while I was out there, although unfortunately I didn't have time to go to a game. They're taking over the world. They built the Monstars this offseason, and everyone else is the Looney Tunes, like before they got Michael's secret stuff. As of Thursday afternoon, the Dodgers are actually one of 2 undefeated teams, which really speaks to how well-rounded that whole Padres roster is, too. The Dodgers have played one more game than anybody else, and they're 8-0. The longest undefeated starts to a season of all time. Because, of course, that's how good this team is, that we already have to start talking about that. It was the 1982 Braves and the 1987 Brewers at 13 games apiece. The 2023 Rays actually tied that record and would go on to win 99 games, yet not even win their own division. I'm here to say this year's Dodgers could be an even bigger outlier. 100 wins is probably almost their absolute floor, and I don't know if we've ever seen a team like that before, at least I haven't. They've already had Mookie Betts miss games. They've already had Freddie Freeman miss games. Mookie still looks a little bit skinny, a little sickly. He's probably going to take a few weeks to get all the way back to his playing weight. It kind of doesn't matter. The depth of that team, I cannot ever recall seeing it. There's already been a 3-home run game, too, and that will shock you probably not at all. Reigning MVP, near Triple Crown winner, and all-around cyborg Aaron Judge. He picked up exactly where he left off, to the point that it's kind of boring. And we shouldn't do that. We shouldn't take away from the ridiculousness of his season last year. You start with a guy that's 6'7", 280 pounds, and then you add in these funny-looking torpedo bats, which we will get to more later. You've still got the pitchers that are chasing velocity and strikeouts. They're getting the ball elevated. It would not be shocking at all to see him go over 50 this year. I don't know that he's going to give a chase at that famous 73 from Barry Bonds, but 60 is frankly not that difficult for him, and he's pretty much a lock to lead the league. This will shock you too. He is a huge AL MVP favorite again. I expect his average will go down a little bit from last year because it was at 322. And people don't talk about that necessarily as much, but still, that 322 clip, that's unsustainable for almost any player, even most Hall of Famers, especially as they get to his sort of age, almost 33. Still, if anyone's going to avoid the aging curve entirely and just never lose their power, one of the biggest, strongest ball players ever is a really good bet. Yawn. At time of recording, the Diamondbacks' third baseman, Eugenio Suarez, is actually the league leader in homers. He has 5 in the first 6 games. That's ridiculous, of course, but Suarez has quietly hit almost 300 homers for his career, and he's gone over 35 times, with a career high of 49 back in 2019. That was the absolute peak of the juice ball era, and no, he doesn't provide an insane amount of value outside of hitting home runs, but it shows that just purely hitting those is a skill that you can practice and improve at. I would be totally unsurprised if he ended up with 40 or more, and he could definitely be among the league leaders. He also strikes out roughly 3 times as much as he walks, and he's led the league in strikeouts 3 times. That used to be a highly frowned upon approach, and now it's just not. Perfect example of don't hate the player, hate the game. Another unexpected happenstance from the first week, the Tigers' reigning Cy Young and Triple Crown winner, Tarik Skubal. He's started 0-2 with a 5.91 ERA in the first couple of starts. Considering how insane he was last year, this is almost newsworthy. In all likelihood, it's going to end up being a non-issue, but he did have to face the aforementioned Monstars. He was going to be the Tigers' opening day starter. I think we knew that. But then they opened up with a night game in LA. The atmosphere was wild. I got to watch the game on TV there in LA, right? But Skubal only went 5 innings, gave up 6 hits and 4 earned. For most, that's an average start, right? Then his next start came this Tuesday against the Mariners, and at least he struck out 8. At least he was still nasty. He forced 23 swings and misses, which is completely mental. However, the extra base hits were an issue again. He gave up a home run and 2 doubles in some big spots, and he left with a 3-2 loss. Now, all of that said, there are too many times when he lives toward the top of the strike zone, and that probably explains all of the extra base issues. He really might have a full season well under a 2 ERA if he could consistently live at the knees or below. This is not a new issue. He is a power pitcher, and if you sort of look at all of the overlays of the pitches that he threw last year, and you add up all those thousands of them across a strike zone, you realize he does live in the top half the good majority of the time. I know being the Greg Maddux type is not exactly his style, but if Skubal wants to be more than kind of a one-year wonder, it's something he might need to tweak his mechanics in order to get done. That is scary to suggest so early in the season, and in all reality, I would guess that nothing is actually wrong with him, but it's just one of those changes that you can be all but certain would lengthen his career. He already has that awesome four-seam and the sinker. You can challenge people with that, at 100, 101, up and away, up and in. Keep that in the back pocket. Maybe throw some more off-speed early and in typical fastball counts. Make sure you get those pitches down, and then just keep going out there every 5th day with good intentions. That's what I would like to see from Tarik Skubal. Still, I think he'll be fine. Next, let's switch gears and talk about the best April Fool's jokes that caught my eye in honor of the quote-unquote holiday just a couple of days ago. I'll do my best to keep it funny and not turn it too much into a rant on misinformation or social media, whatever the old man yelling at the sky would say. Some of these I had sent to me, but like everybody else, some of them were also provided to me by the almighty algorithm. The number one thing I believed looked like it came from the NBA commissioner and still debatable supervillain Adam Silver. He seemingly was talking about a rules committee meeting that was thinking about adding a deeper 4-point line onto existing courts for play next year. The thing is, I heard this same idea in the off-season this year, and I think Silver does a better job than most of being transparent whenever there's going to be some big change. This one should probably just happen already. Rip the Band-Aids for next year, test it out in the preseason, get some data on it, let the best shooters get plenty of practice with it, and then everybody that's already a poor 3-point shooter will just have the choice not to use it. You think there's a chance Ben Simmons ever hits a four-pointer? Percentages would probably have to be less than what the league currently hits from three. I don't see there's any way it would be more, unless maybe defenses sag off so far when you're at the 4-point line that it's completely uncontested. That remains to be seen, and it's just a thought from me. But as long as the percentage decrease is enough that the expected points per shot would be equal to or less than what a 3 currently gives, I would have no problem with this. I don't think that you should award 4 free throws for a foul on a shot taken out there, though. That might need a hard limit at 3. Then there's even one more worm in the can that I can think about. Do you allow a 5-point play if somebody draws a shooting foul and hits a 4-pointer? I don't think I can justify one possession being worth 5 points in any way in a basketball game. But again, just something to think about. And if you don't give a free throw, then how would you manage the whole foul situation? Alas, this was fake, but I do think we'll see it soon enough because shooters are just too good. The next post I saw seemed the most likely to be true. I didn't believe it as much as the 4-point line just because I knew what day it was, but of course I heard that Aaron Rodgers retired. We should all be so lucky. He still reserves the right to, at any point, really on any given day, and I expect that after the draft we're going to have a much better idea. There's a number of teams that could trade a draft pick for him during the draft, and it's obviously not going to be a first or second rounder at this point in his career, but it could be totally worth it for a team that doesn't need him to be the starter. Let's say he mentors J.J. McCarthy with the Vikings, or competes with Justin Fields if for whatever reason he wanted to head back to the Jets. He could be a one-year stopgap or a mentor with the Titans when you think about it. He could back up Trevor Lawrence with the Jags. I've already said it multiple times this offseason, and I'm getting tired of it. If anybody claims that they know what Rodgers is going to decide, they're lying. He did take what I heard was quite a long visit to the Steelers facility a couple weeks ago, and everybody held their breath thinking it was super imminent, forgetting maybe who they were talking about. The Steelers absolutely need someone after they let 2 starting caliber guys go on total bargain deals. But they are hardly ever big free agent spenders, and Rodgers, of course, would need some sort of extension. Right now, fun fact, is the only time Rodgers has ever been a free agent his entire career. He's now almost 42 years old, he's been traded, he's played on 5 different contracts, but he had never been released up until the Jets this year. That is so Jets, and Rodgers truly might be pushing Brett Favre for the most bizarre career arc. Finally, let's get back to the MLB Torpedo bats. The last thing I saw on that fateful day of April 1st was they were already going to be banned after about a week of service time. Jeff Passan is one of ESPN's best baseball insiders and writers, and he wrote an article I'll link in the description of the episode that hits on most of the major points you need to know about these torpedo bats. Yes, they are currently legal. No, they don't look vastly different, I would say, from normal bats, and they're made by distributing some of the wood differently than the traditional shape. They move some of the mass from near the end cap down to about the typical sweet spot area, which I've heard estimated as something like 5 to 7 inches from the end of the bat. The end cap is really where you would notice any difference when you look at these, and even then it can be subtle. The head on them kind of looks like a bowling pin. The proposed benefit is you get a bigger total sweet spot, and you probably sacrifice a little bit of integrity at the end and even down towards the handle possibly. I'm not certain of that part. Still though, great hitters just don't make that much contact that is right off the end of the bat or on the handle, especially if they have highly repeatable mechanics. Big stars are the ones that we want to talk about. The Reds' Elly De La Cruz just had a 2-home run, 7 RBI game using one. The Tigers' Riley Green said in a post-game interview, I believe, that he was going to order one soon. The Yankees hit 9 home runs as a team in a single game, some of them using the torpedo bat, including, I believe, Aaron Judge with his 3, all in the first week. The idea wasn't new. When you say that, though, it is a little bit suspicious. But people like Giancarlo Stanton and Francisco Lindor, already great home run hitters, have used them the last couple of years. The current standards on bats actually aren't that strict at all. You have a max length of 42 inches, which would be an absolute tree trunk. Nobody's swinging that. You have a max diameter of 2.61 inches, which is just about 100th or two smaller than the typical big barrel composite bats that are all over travel ball in high school, then really the last criteria is they have to be a smooth and round shape, which is, of course, the sort of loophole that you could argue players are exploiting and testing the boundaries of. To wrap it all up on the April Fool's stuff, they were fun. I don't want to get too crackpot with my Aaron Rodgers theories until after the draft. I've made my stance, and I'm now doubling down. Unless he is traded and extended with the Steelers or somebody else, I will not talk about him anymore until after the draft. He already takes up too much space in my head, and I'm slowly running out of it. You feel me? It was still very good bait, and I credit whoever originally thought to post it, but I saw it on a meme page. The MLB will probably do nothing on the bat issue, especially because it's going to be easy to put together a study suggesting that the shape of the bat doesn't matter at all for performance. Then finally, I am 100% down with the 4-point line in the NBA. They would just need to have some other accommodations in the rulebook to go with it. Perhaps sometimes we could all be better about vetting what we read on the internet, right? But hopefully this was a fun little exercise, and the holiday, quote-unquote, of April Fools is done. And that's going to wrap up Season 2, Episode 3 of White Noise Sports with Tanner White. After the LA trip, I am a good chunk of the way through my master's. That's pretty cool to say. 3 full terms down, hopefully 2 more to go. Lots of fun things are in the works. I have 1 class I think I'm going to love this term, Advanced Social Media Strategy, and 1 class I may not love, but it will be useful, Media Law. I like the current intro-outro sound bites. I've got a lot, but I've usually had pretty good things happen in terms of plays and engagement anytime that I make a change, so I'll consider that in another couple of weeks. All 4 1 seeds are still alive, too, in the Men's March Madness tourney, and I had 3 of 4 of them in my bracket. Michigan State was the only 2 seed I took to get to the Final Four. Now, if Florida can get it done over both Auburn and the winner of Duke-Houston, which is a massive if, then I'll have a chance to win a bracket pool of 84, and I should at least be in the money, again, if Florida wins. Spring sports are in the air, too. Baseball is always going to have my heart. Softball and lacrosse are awesome. Good times, and the arena soccer season is about to wrap up for me as well. I have to ask, like always, that you leave a like if you enjoyed the episode. Plus, drop a comment and check out the weekly poll, especially if you're new. I'll be getting better about plugging those, but I always try to put something insightful in them, and it's questions that I really want to hear the answers to and to get some insight on the audience. This has been Season 2, Episode 3 of White Noise Sports with Tanner White. Thanks for joining me.
They want to go quick with Hogan to the rack and 1. Flush, chucks it up, it's caught! Dagger!
Oh, she's going to hit the gas. 1-on-1, boom!